Here we go, part 2 of my top 10 coolest guys list. Here we go. Number 5 is Travis Touchdown. Yes, I talked about him in No More Heroes. I wanted No More Heroes 3, but he is such a cool character to me. His style, the shirts that he wears in the game, which are customizable, you can wear different shirts. Some of those, I was like, man, I want that. I want to wear that one. Two of my favorite ones are the one with the camo and the target on the crosshairs on it, and it just says sniper underneath it. If you run, you'll only die tired. And another one, which is in all black, but one word is in hot pink, and it says, "You say psycho like it's a bad thing." Yeah, I so wanted that shirt. I couldn't find it anywhere online. I found it a couple years later, but I didn't have any money to buy it, so I was like, I'll pass, which is unfortunate. So, not to mention Travis Touchdown's weapon, the beam katana. Yeah, it's a lightsaber to some, but they call it a beam katana, and especially in the second game, it definitely looks more like a katana than any sort of saber. So the way it's even done looks more like what you would actually see. The original one that he has actually has a thing where it holds a beam in between 2 points, so that the light could actually be held in that one spot. Because if you don't have it like you would see in Star Wars, the beam would just keep going. You can't really cut it. So you need something to... It's all technical. I don't care. You probably don't either. But the weapon is really cool. Not to mention, when you finish somebody off with that, bam! It is just a shower. It is a rain of blood. It's so cool to see it, especially when you get 3 or 4 guys at the same time you're killing, and you just bam! 3 people just exploding in blood. It's hilarious. It's so cool to watch. I'm a bit of a sadist. I know. But it's fun to me. Not to mention, Travis is pretty relatable because he's a wrestling fan like me. He does a lot of backdrops and tilt-a-whirl, especially in the first game, a lot more wrestling moves, and I like that. Not to mention, he's also an otaku. He's a nerd, like a lot of us. And he's pretty relatable that way. And yeah, he's just so much fun to play as. And the way you recharge the beam katana, I'm not even going to tell you how it's done. The first time you watch it, I swear you will laugh. And if anybody catches you playing the game and recharging your beam katana, they're going to ask you, what the hell are you doing? Oh, it's so great. It's such a great game, and not to mention such a cool character. Yeah, Travis Touchdown definitely deserves to be on my top 10 coolest guys. Number 5 for a reason. Number 4, speaking of nerds, is Peter Parker. Peter Parker is a true everyman of superheroes. And he gave a lot of people hope because he ended up marrying Mary Jane. And she's hot in the comics. And she is definitely a cool chick. Not as cool as Black Cat, but she's pretty cool too. But you get to see this guy transform over time. And he went from being the stereotypical nerd to being a little more eccentric, kind of cool. He is able to outthink his opponents, which makes him a lot cooler than some superheroes. Not to mention, he's still a humble guy, and he's still just a regular guy. That's what's so cool about him to me. He's not some billionaire. He's not some alien. He's not some demon from another dimension. He's not a Norse god. He's just a guy. He's just a guy who just fell backwards in the power and is trying to do the best he can with the power that he has. And to me, that is really cool. And definitely somebody I enjoy reading. For a long time until... Oh no, I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to talk about that story. Let's move on. Number 3 is Roronoa Zoro from One Piece. This guy is a badass. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. A total badass. His Santo Ryu sword style, it may look ridiculous to some, but it is really cool to watch him fight in the anime. You see the manga as well, he's pretty damn cool. Not to mention, he's a great contrast to some of the other characters, especially Luffy, the main character, who's very happy-go-lucky, not really thinking that much. Whereas Zoro could be the strategist, can be a lot more serious, and not have everything be so, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Silly. Not so silly. He brings the seriousness when it needs to. Same with Sanji, but Sanji's not as cool as Zoro in my opinion. Not to mention, he is the guy who's willing to say the harsh truth. You know, remember there was a part where Luffy and Usopp are fighting. In the end, Luffy's sad and he's crying of what's happening, and Zoro's just right there. He's like, do not falter. You're our leader. You have to be the one who stands strong. If you falter, we're done. He's that sort of thing that makes him a cool character. He's supportive, but he's also going to be the one to kick you in the ass when you need it. So yeah, definitely a cool character. One Piece has been around over 10 years, and it's definitely, Zoro definitely is probably the coolest character of the entire crew. Definitely. Number 2 on my list is Gambit from the X-Men. I'm mainly going by the 90s X-Men cartoon because that's where I first saw the X-Men. But Gambit was so cool. His voice was really interesting. He was able to sweet talk a lot of people and be able to get away with stuff. That Cajun drawl that sounded really cool to me. Not to mention the fact that his power is pretty cool in the way to just throw a playing card and just have it explode, or anything he can get his hands on, just have enough time to charge it and throw it. Definitely a cool power he has. Not to mention the fact that his backstory is, I think, better than Wolverine's, because Wolverine's is so convoluted and so crazy. It spans over 100 years. It's kind of hard to keep all of it straight. With Gambit, it's a lot easier and it's a lot cooler as far as I'm concerned. Not to mention the fact that, looking back on it as an adult, him trying to hook up with Rogue is the classic case of, you know, a man always wants what he can't have. Very relatable as far as I'm concerned. You want to know how cool Gambit is to me? One year for Halloween, I think it was 92. I'm trying to remember when exactly X-Men was really popular. But I dressed up as Gambit for Halloween. I had, Marvel used to have these playing cards. They were like baseball cards in a sense. Not playing cards. These baseball-esque cards, but they had the Marvel character, and on the back they have stats and description of the character. So I had one for Gambit, and now later my mom, a couple of my cousins helped me get a bunch of clothes together that resembled the picture, a coat, some pants that looked like Gambits, and then we would paint stuff, patterns on the pants or on the shirt, whatever it needed to be. It was the only time, not the only time, it was the first time I ever wore gel in my hair, because I don't like wearing gel. So my cousin actually helped me to spike up my hair. And I even had playing cards to try and pretend I was Gambit. I was trying to do the voice, but I was a kid, so I didn't really know how to do voices. And the only thing I didn't have was the staff that Gambit had, mainly because you can't go trick-or-treating with a staff. Also, at that time, there were little school Halloween parties as well. This before schools decided to take all the fun stuff away from students. But they used to have these little Halloween get-togethers, little parties, I guess you want to call it. There would be games and other attractions, food. And so I went to that with my buddy, with my best friend, Ryan. What's up, Ryan? You remember when we went to those? Those were fun, weren't they? Yeah, so we went to that, we hung out, we went trick-or-treating afterwards, And it was a lot of fun. I mean, I was so enamored with that Gambit. I did all that work just to try and look like Gambit for Halloween. Yeah, a lot of fun. Yeah. So if I like Gambit that much, I was willing to dress up as him for Halloween. Why is he number 2? Who could be number 1? Let's find out. The number 1 coolest guy to me is Vegeta, Dragon Ball Z. There's a reason for this. At first, I was thinking of Gohan being the coolest because he was my favorite character. Then they ruined Gohan, so that got thrown out the window. So who else is cool? Piccolo's pretty cool, but kind of gets pushed aside towards the middle of the Cell Saga. Yamcha's not cool. Krillin's not cool. Tien was only cool in Dragon Ball. Chaozu was never cool. And then you have Vegeta. Vegeta has probably the best story arc, or character arc I should say. It's the best character arc of any of the characters, because you see him, he's an a-hole, he's brash, he doesn't care about anybody, he just wants immortality and become, to rule the universe in a sense. But you see him starting to gain an alliance with Gohan and Krillin and Namek. He comes back to Earth. He starts having an alliance with the other Z fighters. Not to mention, after they find out androids are coming, are going to destroy the Earth and kill everybody. Vegeta starts training, and then he starts having a relationship with Bulma. Yeah, you see how this is all progressing. Not to mention, he has a son, all this sort of stuff. He even has a relapse into his evil self as Majin Vegeta during the Majin Buu saga. Not to mention, he still holds that, I want to be better. I want to be better. Not to mention, he wants to surpass his rival. A lot of us have rivals of people, or friends, and want to be better than them at something. Or you see in sports, you see the athletes, they want to be better than their rivals. So it's definitely relatable. Not to mention, Vegeta has a great moment in the middle, I guess towards the beginning of the Majin Buu saga, after his battle with Kakarot, as he calls him, and when he's trying to fight Buu. It's a great moment. Not to mention, he has a great moment when they were fighting against Cell, and Gohan and Cell were doing the Kamehameha battle. Yeah, Vegeta has such a great character arc, whereas Goku, he stayed exactly the same throughout the entire run of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. He never changed. But Vegeta did, and it was such a gradual and pretty relatable progression that he had to be the coolest one. He had to be the coolest one, especially after they ruined Gohan. So yeah, that in my opinion makes him the coolest guy in fiction. So that's my list. What do you think? Do you agree with it? Who to you is the coolest guy? Remember, no real world representations are allowed in this. So you can't say Ben Affleck as Batman, or Christopher Reeves Superman, or Tom Maguire or Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, or whoever. You can't use any of them. Just tell me in non-real world representations who's the coolest guy. So I went to cool, but next I'm going to go the opposite route. Be ready for that. Until then, later.